Hello, my friend. Welcome once again to Spiritism, a closer look. And this is Kardec Radio. I'm Luiz Lima, your host. If you have any comments, I always say that if you have any comments and questions, suggestions, you can always use uh, the information that we place here on the screen for you via email, kardecradio.com, or our Facebook pages. Well, tonight we are going to have a very interesting, I think, program. I'm going to bring a guest. So we're going to have a topic and a guest. The topic is the Mission of Spiritists. And the guest is Deise Galan. Deise, how are you?
Hi, Luiz. I'm great. How are you today?
Good. I'm very happy that you could, accept our invitation and be here with us once again. So,
Yeah.
The topic is very challenging. I get enthusiastic about this topic myself personally. So,
Yeah.
welcome.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you, Luiz, for the invitation. And yes, it's a great topic and a lot of responsibility, right,
Oh
for
my
us to
God.
talk about it.
It puts a lot of weight on our shoulders.
For sure. Yes, for sure.
Okay, so let's go. The Mission of Spiritists. What can we say about it?
Yes. So, Luiz, well, what can we say about it, right?
Yeah,
Where
or
to
how do we start?
start?
How do we start?
How do we start? Yeah. Well, if we go to the gospel according to Spiritism, there's a passage, chapter 20, is by the Spirit Erastus, and he talks a lot about the mission of Spiritism. So that is one of the reference, right? We can see many reference, but we know our first place is to look in the gospel, right? And it's so interesting. And I can bring an excerpt here for us to start. But he says right in the second paragraph that the true followers of Spiritism, you are the chosen ones of God. Go and preach the divine word. The time has come in which you must sacrifice your habits, labors, and futile concerns to its propagation.
Oh, that is interesting. So that's clearly a mission.
Yes, it's a mission. Yeah.
Yes.
It's it's
Yeah.
a treasure, right, Luis, as we think about Spiritism. Not because we are the chosen one, quote unquote, we're special because we have access to this. Is on the contrary, right? Our list of debts, it's so long, right? We're so much in the red. Then we are asking, sometimes we ask ourselves to come and how can we help Jesus in his mission on earth? And then he comes and brings us Spiritism, and it's a treasure that needs to be shared, but it's in this message. We need to sacrifice, right? Spiritists need to sacrifice, as it says, their habits, their labors, their concerns to make sure that we are sharing the works, right? Because if not, we would be sharing this but not practicing, then we will not be coherent in our lives, right? So I think it's the biggest change from any other religious beliefs, because it's not going there and checking the boxes, right? Or attending a talk or a sermon or a ministry is really changing ourselves, changing our lives,
Right.
and sacrificing our needs to make sure that we're sharing this with others.
Yeah,
Right?
it forces us to be better first, to grow first. It's also a way for us to grow, because it forces us to learn more, understand more, practice more, and that's growth. So it's the mission that we carry is first of all towards ourselves.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
making us better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's Spirit's book also addresses that in several different ways, not directly with the words, But that's a general idea. Anything you do for, others, you're doing for yourself first. So if we're carrying a mission towards others, we are doing for ourselves first.
Yes. And that is the hard work, right? Because working in ourselves, right? I don't think any other religious and philosophical uh, teaching has come to really bring this to ourselves, right? How
Mm-hmm.
can we, as you said, how can we improve ourselves? And Spiritus says we improve ourselves, but as we also extend our hand to others. So as we help others, as you said, we're helping ourselves, right? Because that's how it is. So it's not that we're just sitting there in a cocoon by ourselves in isolation from everybody saying, oh, I'm going to improve ourselves, but I'm isolating myself. It's on the contrary, right? We are extending ourselves to other and seeing how can I, as I help others, I am continue working on myself, but pushing myself to really be there for others. So it's that is the hard task that spiritists need to accomplish, right?
Yeah, we could go as far as maybe saying that uh, helping ourselves is a byproduct of helping others. It's almost like this. Growing is almost a byproduct of helping somebody else grow.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's an interesting perspective that Spiritism gives us, which is different. Like you said, other philosophical thoughts and so they don't see it that way. Or at least they don't characterize that way.
Hmm.
That makes Spiritism completely different. Not that
Yeah.
it's better or worse. That's not what I'm saying. But it's
Oh
different. It's a
no.
different angle,
Yes,
and
different angle.
you know, and that's what I was saying in the beginning. It makes us, I think, more enthusiastic about doing this. 'Cause it makes us, you know, grand by doing this for us and them.
Yeah. And like I said, it brings us this excitement and it's so hopeful, right? Spiritism is so hopeful because it shows us that we're not doomed
Yeah.
to eternal suffering. We're not doomed because we committed a mistake. We are immortal spirits. We are progressing always. So we will get there one day, sooner or later, depends on us. But it brings us hope, right? Because if not, uh, I cannot imagine, without spiritism in our lives to really bring that bifocus lens so that we can
Mhm.
look at challenges in life or situations that we're going through with different lens, right? Knowing that this will pass, what I can learn from this, what this will bring for me. So I think that's why it's the promise consoler because it brings us so much consolation.
Yeah, and when we understand this, we understand the reason of things, and we pass that along. You can feel that people who you pass this along to, they will
Mhm.
first take, they will, let me think about this. That's the general impression, like it was for most of us. Let me
Yeah.
think about this. And then it starts developing and growing from there. That little seed that we plant into somebody
Mhm.
else's minds and hearts, they grow from there too. And it's just beautiful to see people,
Yeah.
embrace that and just make it part of their lives then.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's as you said, as we share this with others, not that we know we're not here to impose it to
Yeah.
in anyone, right? Everyone has free will, but
Mhm.
the more we share in programs like this through Kardec Radio and so many other channels, right? The more we share, it gives us others to get to know more about this so that they can also feel the consolation in their lives. So if we just keep it to ourselves, how egotistic would that be, right? To know and have access to all these books, especially so many of us who are from Brazil, who speaks Portuguese, who have access to books that are not even translated yet. And then we are able to share this with others. It's truly a mission. That's why it's in the gospel. It's a mission, right? Because it's such a big responsibility.
Yeah, and there's a few things. When I was reading through this, in my early days in Spiritism, long time ago, uh, the general idea that came to me is, okay, this is a mission. It's like a boss giving you something to do. So I'm going to embrace this and I'm going to do it. And then if your boss gives you something to do, right? As you do it, you're going to start understanding the reason why you were asked to do that. Oh, now I understand why my boss wants me to place this thing on the left side of the desk. And then it starts to make sense. Hopefully, in some cases it doesn't. And then you question yourself. This is not making sense to me. You see, questioning is philosophy. Spiritism is a philosophy. So you got to question everything. But as you go along and you try, you question the things and the reason comes up and explains to you what it does. I think one point there was like a changing, I would say a before and after kind of thing for me was when you go to people and you start, especially people who are not spiritists, right? And you start showing what Jesus called or what the gospel calls the other cheek, the other face. I think that's a breaking point for most people. And then you just tell them something like this, for example, you bring me hate, I'm going to respond with the other face, which is love.
Yeah.
And that takes away the idea of a physical hit against another physical hit. There's too much physicality in the interpretation of this passage in all Christianity except Spiritism. We don't see it. We don't take the physical tone. For most people, there's still a hit on your face. It's still a general thought, and it's different for us. And when we explain these to people, I think it changes them.
Yeah.
That's a changing point.
Yeah.
So we are these agents of the other face, if you will. Right?
So true, Luis. And as you're talking about that, and it's in this chapter too, it reminds us that and we see in the spiritist literature, it's not going to be an easy task. People will not understand us. As it says here, we will have to sacrifice. And sometimes people, even inside our own families, they might not understand it. And they will argue, or when I say argue, not only verbally, right, but they will question.
Yeah.
But it throughout all these books, this says, don't give up, like press on, move forward, and don't let that discourage you, because look at what happened with Jesus. So who are we to say, or who are we to think that we will not go through challenges, because Jesus was persecuted himself, and he's the governor of our planet. He's a pure spirit. So we're so small. And then at the end of this chapter, that's exactly what they say, because they say, go forth and give thanks to God for this glorious tasks he has entrusted you. But bear in mind that among those called to Spiritism, many have gone astray. So watch your course and follow the way to the truth.
That's very true. Very interesting. For me too, I think when we start bringing this out to other people, and you said about inside a family, it shakes things up a little bit. I think the most difficult part for them when they listen to us is, how do I align Spiritism, this new thing he's bringing to me? How do I align this with other religions? And that's a problem, because if you take two formal religions, let's just say Catholicism and the evangelics, right? You can align things. Oh, they do this, we do this. They do it this way, we do it this way. They have these particular holidays, we have those things like this, right? So how that's their question. How do I align
Mm.
Spiritism with that? You don't,
You
because
don't.
it's not a formal religion. And I think that's the biggest challenge, to make them understand it doesn't, it's not a snap of fingers that comes from God. There's
Mm-mm.
philosophy behind it. It is a philosophy, essentially. It
Yeah.
just uses the moral basis brought by Jesus. But I think that is the most challenge in our mission. Make people understand it's not a formal religion. There are
Mm.
no holidays, there are no rituals, no dogmas, nothing like this. No
Yeah.
priest, no, no God, no
Yeah.
human God, or somebody who, you know, who,
Yeah. It's hard, right, Luis, because we come from so many lives, I believe all of us, where we still used to have, like that physical place you have to go to, the church or the temple, the dogmas, as you said, that, or, the practice, right? You need to make this prayer so many times, or you need to uh and like you said, in spiritism, we don't have, there's no adoration, to an image. So it's really retraining ourselves, and sometimes that is so ingrained in us that and that's why everyone will come at their time, right? And we learn spiritism, we have to respect, we share, but that is the biggest challenge, right? Because there is no equivalent. It's a new way of thinking, and a new way of, like you said, a philosophical approach, because we are then inquiring about ourselves. um, so
yeah, I like what you said. I think people, when they face that, they kind of lose their ground a little bit. That's why it's a little, it's a shakeup, because let's say you come from, I don't know, Catholicism, so you have all the rituals, you do this and you do that, and
the rituals,
you go to
yeah.
the mass and you have this procedure and so on, and suddenly you decide to leave Catholicism for whatever reason. That's not the point here. So you
Mhm.
just sympathize with Spiritism, and you go like, oh, but what do I do now on my Saturdays? How do I do this? How do I do that? Because you're trying to bring over, at least in the beginning, the rituals and the dogmas over, and there are no equivalent, like you said, rituals. And so people lose their ground in the beginning. Oh, I'm on my own now,
Mhm.
because spiritism does not transform you. It helps you transform yourself. It's not a decree that, as of tomorrow morning you're perfect. There isn't such a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
And
no.
you
and
know
and as you said, it's not like feeling like a box. Oh, because and we're saying just generally, not in any specific religion, and it happens even inside spiritism too. People think, oh, because I go to the center once a week, I check the box and I'm good, and I did all I had to do for the week. And spiritism teaches us that it's not about checking that box, right? There's no ritual because of that, because the importance is that we absorb this and we change ourselves. And then at home, at work, in the community, we are the true spiritists, right?
yeah.
The true Christians in the sense of the word, that we're applying God's laws
Mhm.
anywhere we are. But it requires us to really reflect and change within ourselves.
And I think there's another point too, picking up from what you said. Spiritism, because it's a philosophy, it's very centered on the moral. Other religious segments are not so much. They're centered on theology.
Uh-huh.
God told you to do this. God snapped the fingers, and there was a huge storm that wiped out everything. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Of course, we are, because we had, and you said this too, because we have had so many lives under that line of thought. We're still a little bit contaminated by it, so it's difficult to get away from it completely, 100%. So there's going to be a transition. It takes time. At the best case scenario, we are on our second spiritist life, right? At the best
At
case,
the best case, I like
for most of us, it's the
that.
first is the first half spiritist life, because a lot of us came from other
Mhm.
belief systems in the middle
Exactly.
of our
Yeah.
lives sometime. and
Yeah.
and it becomes very challenging, very difficult. And because we have been through this, we understand what they're going to have to go through when we start bringing them the message. So we kind of know our mission is going to be like in face. We know
Yeah.
in a way.
And as you're saying, right, Luis, the spiritists bring us this moral transformation, right? And we, in the spirits book, Kardec asks, and the spirits say that the hardest thing for us to change, or right within ourselves, is selfishness and pride.
Hmm.
So that is the word will change when we address those true go to the core, right? How do we truly change so that we're not selfish, so that we're not proud
Hmm.
for, and that touches in the core of each and every one of us. But then in the contrast, the beauty is that, as we see in the books, it depends on us, right? People think, oh, I will change when this happens in my life, when I'm leaving this place, when I have this job or this family, or and we're always externally, right? But spiritism comes and says, no, it depends on only on you, and you can do it as fast as you want. As in the books we see, there are people who come in one life, they completely change themselves, because they truly learn how to renounce, how to sacrifice, how to think about others. uh, but for most of us, who take many, many, many reincarnations, and that's
Yeah.
okay too. But it puts the power on us, so it doesn't depend on anyone else. um,
And one thing that I think it's interesting is, of course, like you said, they wait for a triggering factor which comes from outside. It doesn't. And the other triggering factor that could help them when we carry on our mission is the very idea of reincarnation. Because you see, if they come from the Christian world, any denomination, it doesn't matter. They've
mhm.
read the same thing that we did, right? It's just the interpretation is different
Yeah.
because they extracted things that were on the original gospels, and they don't pay attention to that. So when you read the same passage now with the idea of there is reincarnation, everything changes. Everything
Mhm.
changes without
Yeah.
changing the book. It's not that
Yeah.
somebody's saying your book is wrong, is bad, I'm going to toss it, I'm going
Mhm.
to set it on fire. Nobody's doing
No,
any of that. We're
definitely.
still using the same sayings from the same master. We're just interpreting like he actually said, not like the church established centuries later. And I
Mhm.
think that's also a wide opening thing for most people.
Yeah, it is. It is. And reincarnation, right, Luis, like you said, brings us a different lens, right? Because we read the same passage, the teaching of Jesus, right? But we with this different lens and with this different perspective. And we look at our lives different too, because we know, okay, we're not here by chance. We're not in this family by chance. I'm not in this in a particular country or place by chance. There's a reason behind everything. But when our physical body dies, we will continue living on. And because that is the real life, right? The spiritual realm is the
Yes.
real life. This is just passing. So
And before we started, you also mentioned the parables of the talents, right? Can you bring
that's
that up, please?
yes, definitely, Luis. Yes. So in the book, Among Brothers of Other Lands, chapter 30, Brother X gives us a beautiful explanation in the spiritual realm how they retold the parable of the talents, where the story is that, similar to the story that, Jesus brought to us, is that there were, three servants, and they each were given one talent, right? One was given money and power, the other was given intelligence, and the third one was given spiritism. And that's the story told by Jesus. They come back uh, to the Lord, in this case, right, to God. And the first one says, I'm sorry, I failed, and then they say, no, it's okay, we'll give you another opportunity, we're giving you the talent back, go back. And then the one that received intelligence was the same. He says, oh no, I fail in my reincarnation. Please give me another opportunity. Now I'm gonna know better. And the Lord say, okay, I will give you back your intelligence. You can go back. And then the third one came and said, Lord, you gave me Spiritism, but what can I do with Spiritism? There's nothing I can do because all I did was people were not welcome to me. No one was supporting me. The world is crazy. People were doing crazy. And here is Spiritism. There was nothing I could do with it, right? And and just to pause, Luis, how many of us, the Spiritism, just talking generally, give up on Spiritism, or put Spiritism on the side because, as we already mentioned, we claim that we're not understood, or oh, people are not coming, oh, I do all this but I'm not recognized, because at the end of the day we want the praise, we want to be recognized. So then, oh, the Lord was very upset with the third servant. And then he asked the guards to come and remove the talent of Spiritism of him right away. And he said, from all the three talents, Spiritism is the most important of all of them, because you were supposed, through Spiritisms, to help the other two, to help the one that had money and power better apply his talent, to help the servant that had intelligence apply that intelligence from the good. So from all the three of them, you are the one who failed the most. And then he says, please, he begged, please let me go back and have Spiritism again. And he says, no, you're not gonna have Spiritism again. So I know it's it's harsh, but it is true. We have this gift, gift not because we are better than others, but because we're giving this mission, as it says in the gospel. So if we don't use it and apply it and share, we don't know the next reincarnation, right?
We're not making use of it. Yeah, and it is for sure a mission, and of course, the mission of the Spiritist calls for a complete understanding of the mission of Spiritism itself. One thing ties into the other, and for a lot of people that we carry the mission on to, they have a hard time understanding what Spiritism is, because they associate with, prior belief systems they had, or something else, and it's complicated. I think there's a phrase in the book. I think it's I forgot what the book is. It's one of the Kardec small books. Spiritism in its simplest expression. That's the
Oh
name.
yeah.
There's a phrase that says it all. He goes more or less like this: the main goal of Spiritism is the improvement of mankind. That makes us agents of improvement of mankind. All right, and we don't usually see it that way, because we think we are too small, and we are, but it counts.
Oh, for sure.
Anything counts. We don't transform a nation, for example, all at once. No, it starts with a small group, 2 people, 3 people, neighborhood, city, state. It goes like that.
Yeah.
So, like it was in the past, a little tribe here, not a tribe there, and that's how it goes.
Yeah.
So,
it's like that the drop of water, right, Luis, that starts at the at the spring of water. There's just one drop, right?
yeah.
And that one drop turns into a stream that turns then goes and turns into a river, and then the turns goes to an ocean. So, but it all starts with that one little drop, right? So
Right.
we have to start somewhere.
We are the drops.
Yes, we are the drops.
Okay, I think that was a beautiful way of bringing the subject. Thank you, Daisy, for your time, for your or dedication and devotion to being one of the agents of mankind improvement.
Yeah,
Okay?
we're all of us, right? We all have our part. So it's, we're all here doing our part. Yes, hopefully.
We are.
Well, thank
Okay.
you, Luis. Thank you for this beautiful opportunity. So that we're doing is sharing, right? Because we're all learning. So
Yeah.
we're the first ones, right? So as we say in the Spirit Society of Virginia, we're just parrots. We're here, we read the books, and we share. That's all. So thank you
But
for the opportunity.
and that helps us too, like you said in the beginning. So
Yeah.
thank you very much. And for our audience, thank you very much for joining us tonight. We will be here next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Spiritism, a closer look. Thanks so much. Be